Benvenuti, bentornati, Serie A time, and we're starting with the Rome derby. Lazio 1, Roma 1. Andrea, in general, everything we want from a Rome derby, plenty of fight, a great choreography at the beginning. We have to say the choreography from Lazio was unbelievable. But despite not as many goals as we'd anticipated, a genuinely enthralling and aggressive game, which is what we want to see, right?
Yeah, it was a fascinating game. I think there was a lot of battles throughout the pitch, especially in midfield. I thought Guendouzi and then vice versa for Roma, that there was a lot of anger, let's say, but also fighting for the ball. You love to see it. So I think definitely the beginning bit definitely lived up to the whole hype of the Rome derby. But it was great to see just obviously the goals as well. I mean, we'll go on to Sula's goal, but it was just an incredible game considering how other derbies we've seen in Serie A this season haven't really lived up to the hype. But this one always seems to live up to the hype, which is always great to see. It's one of those ones that you'll always tune in because you know it's going to be a great game. And even for a 1-1, it could have been even 3-3, 4-4. Providel and Sivlar in both goals, absolutely incredible saves to keep it level. So all in all, a great game. I think in the end, a fair result for both teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love about this game is that there's always like a flashpoint. It's something like so it starts quite quietly, and then one tackle goes in, and then they're all fighting and scrapping. I think the flashpoint was really the Lazio goal, to be honest. The second Lazio scored, the heat definitely went up in the stadium, and you could see the Rome players reacting a little bit. But Adam, if we look at the first half, a player that really impressed me throughout the first half, I think Lazio probably had the better of it in the first half.
Yeah.
But I thought Isaacson, he dropped off in the second half, but first half he caused Roma all sorts of problems. I was really impressed with him.
Yeah, I think he was one of the bright sparks for Lazio in that whole game rather than just isolating it to the first half. I think it was interesting the approach that Roma took, very much standing off the opponents, and they've been doing that for recent games. It's not something that's new. It's something that Ranieri's alluded to, the fact that maybe they've been slow at getting started in games, and as he alluded in previous round, giving him a heart attack, but I mean, yeah, I was a bit surprised by the tenacity or lack of maybe fight from a Roma perspective in the early stages. So they had to kind of, I say, absorb it to an extent. But as you allude to, Isaacson just looks deadly. He looks like he had something about him, his efforts on goal, and it was Mandas who was brought in from that point of view from a Lazio perspective in goal. But I mean, Svilar was so good in terms of nullifying the threat from Roma, from Lazio perspective, should I say, sorry. So yeah, I think that's the thing that I kind of alluded to in our chat was that the more that Lazio were attacking, the more it felt like Roma would absorb it and go on the counter. But luckily, it kind of changed in the second half, Rory. And massively important goal from Roma Gnoli that's really got Roma out of their shell. I think that's where the game started to come to life to an extent.
Well, it was about as bad a start to the second half as Roma could have asked for, really. You want to be like, right, okay, what did you say at half-time? Within 2 minutes, you conceded, and it's an ex-player, and he's kissing the badge, and he's giving it all that, and it's like a really, really terrible start for Roma. But I did think, it did kind of cross my mind of like, oh, they've just been too conservative here, and now it's going to cost them. Like, I feel like they could have gone for it a little bit more in the first half, like you said. And because it took them a while to score, I was like, maybe it's cost them that they've just been a bit too conservative, a bit too calm, and now you've got to try and rev yourself up and go. But they were able to do that. I think the main players, Andrea, like you said, the battle was in midfield. I really like Kone. We've been talking about Kone a lot this year. I thought he was fantastic again. But the battle between him and Ravella and Guendouzi was really, really fascinating to see. And of course, Paredes as well. It was like really evenly matched and very like contested, right?
Yeah, it really was. And I think it was key in terms of getting possession, but also springing more attacks. And I think both teams took advantage in the end. So I think in the end, both of the midfields were exceptional because they were able to like fight between themselves to have the ball and have the chances. So I think it just shows the quality on both that they were able to do that. It was quite hard for either respective team to actually kind of dominate and hold a further attack. So just goes to show it was kind of got the end-to-end feel at some points. And I think in some moments of the game, we kind of saw that. It kind of felt like basketball-esque at certain moments where it was just end-to-end. and the midfields were flowing, and certainly both of them have such creativity in those midfields. Yeah, and Kone and I think Guendouzi in particular for Roma Lazio respectively, they're just that big game players that you need in these type of games. They're just warriors that will give their all, and they've got everything about them going forward, defending, and they're just reliable players to have in your team. So I think those type of players just really show the rest of the squad and kind of just uplift this kind of game to a higher level than we anticipate. So it's credit to them, but it's also credit, of course, to the rest of the midfield as well. But certainly the midfield gets the plaudits for me in terms of why this game was very special.
And of course, Adam, we do have to credit the biggest influence in this game, which was clearly Dybala standing on the bench. His aura alone really influenced Roma, and of course drove Sule on to what was possibly one of the goals of the season. As I put on Twitter, fucking hell, it's so satisfying when it's crossbarring in, but what a hit that was. And that's him fully announcing himself at Roma, I think, right? He scored a few goals, but that's his first moment in the shirt, right?
Yeah, I feel that's a moment that endures himself to the Roma faithful in the Curva Sud, for sure. Yeah, that was a hell of a goal to score in a game like this. But we kind of joked about it. This is probably the first time we've actually seen him do anything really of any note for a Roma shirt as well. I know he's had performances beforehand, but it's not been necessarily on this kind of caliber of scale, should we say. So I think this definitely goes a long way in terms of showing the abilities of Sule, because we know that's within him, obviously, from his loan spell at Frosinone last season. We saw at least for half a season what he's capable of. And I think that's the problem, is the consistency that, or in terms of performance. Maybe he's benefiting from the fact that he's now being relied upon. He's actually in a system that works for him as well. But ultimately, he was also the bit of spark for Roma, because they kind of lacked, as I alluded to, from the first half, standing off their opponents in that respect. And I felt like he actually took it from the scruff of the neck and actually took it on. You know, I think there was one particular moment where I see, or at least saw anyway, Pellegrini behind his back trying to goad him. And he, ironically, didn't seem to react, which I think, you know, they're the kind of moments that show a bit of maturity. I think maybe a Sule of last season perhaps reacts a bit. So that is massive. And I think that's something to show that, you know, Roma have got a really class player. But I also feel actually Dovbyk, as much as he didn't get much service, he worked his socks off, you know, trying to create as much as he could. And he was a physical presence that I think also helped Shomorodov in some respects, because I thought Shomorodov, when he did come on, he had these little touches. I know you love me for saying that.
That little roulette he did on the edge of the box and all that was unbelievable.
Exactly.
It was unbelievable.
Those little touches that we didn't expect Shomorodov to ever do in his career at Roma. But yeah, I think it kind of almost works out for Roma in the end. But yeah, Lazio did see it through.
Yeah, I think we do have to remember that Sule is only 21 as well, right? Like, he's super young, and it's like you said, that 6 months in Frosinone, weird 6 months at Juve when nothing really happened, then 6 months at Roma now, and it's like, okay, is he finally finding a home? Is he settling? I thought there was a really embarrassing moment from Pellegrini where he blatantly dived. Lorenzo Pellegrini, Lorenzo Pellegrini, Lazio Pellegrini, not Roma Pellegrini. Incredibly embarrassing dive. I thought that was kind of, it's what you want to see in this game, I suppose, is just the shithousery, but I thought that's a little bit embarrassing. But it was just really, really important, obviously, for Roma not to lose this game. It does mean that Claudio Ranieri now has never lost a Rome derby. Incredible record to go out on. But Andrea, that goal in terms of Roma's season, just to keep them in the European race, is absolutely huge, right?
Massive. And again, I think you guys alluded to it, the fact that it was Sule that did it. He's going to have to play an important part to kind of lead them there as well. So it's great to see. And again, without Dybala in the squad, there's always question marks if Roma can play without him. And that this kind of game showed that they can compete without him. So again, that gives them a bit of hope as well. But certainly not to lose that game will give them inspiration for the next games coming.
And we do, I suppose we need to talk about Lazio as well. Now, a little bit of a concerning run of form. They've only got one win in their last 5 games. There's one loss in there, but Adam, they're drawing a lot. This isn't really the form that you want when you, as it said on Gazzetta dello Sport today, Oggia, 8 teams in for the European race. They need to be making the most out of these games, and draws are going to cost you in the end, ultimately. What does Barone need to be doing with this team?
It's a difficult one because ultimately I think with Lazio there's a lack of depth in this squad. Personally, for me, I think Baroni's works really well with this group of players. I think he's instilled a different kind of confidence that we saw maybe with Lazio under Sarri. But I do feel that in a game like the Rome Derby, you can kind of forgive like a draw because actually you're not losing ground as such to your near city rivals. But what I would, as you allude to, is the form, is the consistency, is trying to get points on the board. They find themselves in a sticky position, don't they, in terms of the league standings now, because there's a group of them, as it's kind of alluded to in the press, and I think maybe in terms of fixtures coming up, it might work out for them because it's not like they're in a terrible place. I think the issue here is that they've got Bodo Glimt in between that. So that's the focus right now. But if I'm looking at it, they've got, teams that are in the bottom half bar, I would say, the last kind of 3 fixtures where they've got Juventus, then Inter followed up by that fixture, and then at home to Lecce. So Lecce, as much as we can laugh it off, that could be a big game for Lecce. Could be a massive game for Lazio in terms of where they stand as well. So there could be a lot riding on that last game. But I think they should get at least aim for at least three wins in the next 3 games, because they've got Genoa, Parma, and they've got Empoli, which are massive games in that respect to cement at least a top 5 finish for them, Rory.
I also have to apologise to Lazio fans for predicting a routine win away at Bodo Glimt, as they obviously lost 2-0 and there was a blizzard. I thought that's the most... As I saw that, I was like, fuck, I said they were going to win that easily, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah, it clearly did not happen, so I need to apologise to Lazio fans about that one. But I'm not going to say about if you can turn it around in the home leg or not, because I'm just going to jinx it. But yeah, a great game overall, and I'm delighted to see that Claudio goes out with an unbeaten record in the Rome Derby. It's what you love to see. Let's leave that game there for now. I think that's everything on that game. I really enjoyed